Some people are absolutely insane. And in serious competitions, you might expect them to deploy the dirtiest tactics and cheapest tricks known to man. But the real lunatics are hiding in the most relaxing and peaceful hobbies ever. Growing vegetables, catching fish, running. Yet somehow, these harmless hobbies spawn some of the most insane community drama imaginable, escalating until they barely resembled hobbies anymore. To understand, we must first visit a small plot of land in Devon, England. It was cultivated by Tony Mason, a gardening veteran with more than 50 years of experience. It had veggies that were not for the dinner table. They were meant for greatness, to win top prizes in a gardening competition. However, his plot and many others were under vicious attack. Crops were intentionally damaged. Sheds were disturbed. But the attacks were not random. They were organized by cunning and ruthless gardeners with a highly calculated battle plan. Whoever was orchestrating the attacks seemed to know and target plots belonging to committee members and important crops during competition season. This means the culprit was believed to be another allotment holder. An inside job.
What's worse than defending your plot from outsiders? Defending it from insiders. Civil war amongst the potting sheds.
But one break-in was stranger than the others.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Nothing important was stolen. Nothing was damaged. But two things were removed from their original position. The two small figurines treasured by his wife, Janet, were strategically hidden behind a downpipe near a communal shed where they were eventually found. Therefore, the attackers were not merely attacking. They were sending a message. They could enter his shed whenever they wanted, knew which possessions had emotional value, and could take them away. But that was far from the end. They attacked the safest and most routine resource of any gardener, the water supply.
One of my water tanks was poisoned.
With the water tanks infected by weed killer, the unknowing gardeners used the contaminated water on their own tomato plants and effectively destroyed their own hard work.
Which I'm not happy about.
The carrots of committee members were mysteriously pulled from growing containers just days before the competition. The attackers had waited until months of cultivation were complete, so the loss would do maximum competitive damage. They deployed the dirtiest tricks in the book. So, how could Tony possibly grow anything for the show? Well, do you remember that Tony was a gardening veteran with more than 50 years of experience? There is a saying that goes, "Beware of an old man in a profession where men usually die young." And this applies to Tony as well. Because amidst the chaos, he developed a contingency plan. Codename, Plot X. It was a secret plot of land in an unknown location that only Tony and Janet knew. And in that safe house, the water supply was clean. It had the potential to cultivate the best veggies in all the land, free from the attackers. But having the plot was only half the battle. Tony and Janet must coordinate to defend Plot X against the attackers, hoping it will be safe. And that God is on their side. Tony and Janet traveled to Plot X and prayed along the way.
Please save me, Donald Trump.
Anything could have happened. Weeks of hidden growth could still have produced forked, damaged, or useless vegetables. Or worse, the attackers might have somehow found Plot X and destroyed everything. Yet, when they arrived and checked their vegetables, they were ecstatic. The vegetables were still present and undamaged. Their plan worked beautifully. But there was still a competition to be won. The results are in. Tony and Janet held their breath as the results were eventually announced. Then they heard it. The sweet sounds of victory. He won. All of it.
I've got first on the carrots. I've got first on the two marrow. First and second with the longest run of beans.
And, most importantly, the best in show for the vegetable section.
Could I call up Tony Mason, please? Because Tony has won the Best in Show Shield, vegetable section.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh dear, I didn't have to expect any of this.
He did it. He beat the attackers. He secured the victory after months of hard work, dedication, and the agricultural safe house that kept all of it protected. But another question remained: the identity of the culprit and the motive. Many conspiracy theories persisted in the community. No one knew if it was one man's job or a group of gardeners with a grudge. They might have done it because of resentment towards Tony or towards the committee. Or it might simply have been sabotage for the winning title. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. Since Tony and Janet had one thing left to do.
We're both going to have a nice, hard drink. We're probably going to have a bourbon and coke or a scotch on the rocks. And then we'll consider going to bed. And that'll be the lot.
Yeah.
Their victory was magnificent and deserved a proper celebration. But not all victories got the same praise. In a completely different competition, a Cleveland fishing tournament, 2 people won. Yet, not a single soul was clapping. The 2 winners were Jacob Runyon and Chase Kaminsky. They were a team, competing in the Lake Erie Walleye Trail, a competitive fishing tournament for the heaviest batch of 5 walleyes, plus a side pot for the single biggest fish. They were by no means newbies who had just entered the lobby. In fact, they were skilled fishermen, but not on their own, anyway. In the previous year, neither of them had even cracked the top 10 while fishing solo. But when they teamed up this time around, they won every tournament they entered with unusually high catch weights. Therefore, people were suspicious. Something fishy was going on. However, the tournament director, Jason Fisher, had something to say. Because the duo had passed the tournament's strictest existing integrity procedures, including polygraph and voice stress examinations, Jason was the only one who stood by their side. But that was about to change. The day of the season-ending championship was here. It was their turn to assemble their best catches. The duo first presented their largest fish for the single fish category. The scale displayed 7.9 pounds.
790, weighted big fish, 790, locking it in.
For context, the average fish around the Lake Erie area weighed around just 3 pounds. Therefore, the weight of the fish was very surprising. But that was far from the end. Their complete 5-fish basket was then registered. The total weight was 33.91 pounds, more than 5 pounds above the leading weight. They won. Again. But the crowd's reaction was muted rather than celebratory. Something was definitely wrong, and everyone could feel it, including Fisher. Because as he squeezed the fish, he felt something hard inside its abdomen. So, he pulled out a knife.
That's a knife.
And he started cutting the fish open in front of everyone. Then, what he saw in it was not just intestines, but something else entirely. Weights made out of lead. And Fisher, seeing this, yelled.
We got weights and fish! There we go!
But he did not stop at that one fish. He cut open all the remaining ones. More weights were found in every fish. The total found was 10 weights, totaled 7 pounds. But oddly enough, that was not even the most terrifying thing found. Several pieces of walleye fish fillet had also been inserted into the competition fish. They served a packing function, adding further mass and helping occupy space inside the body cavity. So, essentially, the duo was not only shoving a bunch of heavy metal weights inside those poor fish, but also forcing them to eat the fillet of their own kind. But for the crowd of anglers present at the scene, it was even more than just cruel and savage. It was the physical proof they believed had always been missing after all the years of doubt and suspicion. Therefore, the atmosphere was violent and hostile. The surrounding anglers began shouting accusations and profanity. Before things could escalate any further, the police responded to the event, and the pair were immediately disqualified. But the police were not the last line of authority involved in the whole thing.
As for this past weekend, law enforcement is now involved. Ohio's Department of Natural Resources released a statement saying they've collected evidence and are preparing a report for prosecutors.
A search warrant was executed at Kaminsky's residence, and the boat and trailer used during the tournament were seized. Both men pleaded guilty to 1 felony count of cheating and 1 misdemeanor count of unlawful ownership of wild animals. They were sentenced to 10 days in local jail and 1.5 years of community control. Their fishing licenses were suspended. They will never be able to abuse another fish ever again. Two guys nearly started a literal riot over fish weight in the most relaxing hobby ever, over a 30 grand prize. But if you think that's an unhinged amount of stakes for a fishing contest, wait until you see people go absolutely ballistic over one man who attempted to run across America. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Marathon Man UK. At least, that is what he called himself. His actual name was Robert Young. You see, he called himself Marathon Man for a reason. He was quite popular, something of an endurance phenomenon. In 2015, legend has it that he had completed 370 marathons in 365 days, covering more than 10,000 miles and raising money for children's charities. He even published a book bragging about his running history. Therefore, he thought he was worthy of the title. Then, the Marathon Man made an announcement in 2016. He would be attempting the fastest run across the continental United States. He planned to depart from California and intended to reach New York City in approximately 45 days. This was equivalent to 3,000 miles and an average of nearly 60 miles per day or more. Along with him throughout the run were a trusty RV and a two-man support crew. But how would he make people believe that he was totally legitimate? He used TomTom watches, online uploads, and a live tracker to document his running progress. People will surely believe it. However, the data evidence that was supposed to provide total transparency ended up causing his downfall. The first anomaly involved the RV breakdown. 4 days after the run commenced, the support RV became stuck or disabled. And the data shown during that moment was very odd. The original GPS upload included a 4.6 miles section, completed within 48 minutes, but it was mysteriously deleted from the database. However, in another public version, that run only lasted 3.5 miles and was completed in 46 minutes. This means there is a 1.1 mile stretch difference that somehow disappeared and was completed at a whopping 45 miles per hour. This is far too fast for a runner. Therefore, the early data was consistent with him entering a vehicle, and with the suspicious section later being removed or shortened. Yet, the weird details did not stop there. The next anomaly happened as he passed near Lebo, Kansas.
This one, Kansas?
Another local runner named Asher Delmont went out intending to meet and run briefly with Young. But Delmont only encountered the support RV moving very slowly at what appeared to be a running pace, and he saw no runner beside it. He drove ahead, turned around, and passed again. Still no sign of Young. Delmont followed the RV and recorded video. But as he ran behind the vehicle, it accelerated away. This time, he failed to find Young where the tracker's movement suggested he should be. All of it was so strange. So much so that Delmont posted a thread on an online runner forum explaining the weird details. The thread rapidly expanded into thousands of posts. Every single detail was brought under the microscope. Tracker movements, uploaded GPS activities, daily mileage, pace changes, and video footage. The internet was no longer passively watching the challenge, it was auditing it. Every single runner suddenly became the next Sherlock Holmes. And they were actually not even bad. As they dug deeper into the data, more and more details appeared that just did not make any sense. Before the post was made, Robert's GPS indicated he was moving incredibly fast, but his watch said he was barely taking any steps. That doesn't make any sense.
What the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
If you're covering more ground, you should be taking more footsteps, not fewer. So, Young was either riding in the RV or had briefly evolved into a land-based kaiju. But things got even weirder.
What?
After the post was made, those impossible readings almost completely disappeared. Suddenly, his watch started recording perfectly normal running data.
That's quite big.
It seemed that now was when the Marathon Man began running for real. Therefore, it was quite obvious that Young could not be trusted. And this gave birth to a task force that consisted of the most elite and experienced ultrarunners, nicknamed Team Jeezer. They had one job: follow Young 24 hours a day to verify his claimed mileage. They caught up to Young and his crew. The task force began round-the-clock, shift-based surveillance, splitting into overlapping teams to watch Young 24 hours a day. And it was during that observation that Young started showing signs of struggle. The challenges of the actual run finally got to him. His pace had crumbled severely. he was observed struggling to run effectively at all after dark, repeatedly needing extended sleep breaks he'd never previously reported taking. It got so intense that one grueling stretch even ended with Young passing out on the road. Then came the final collapse. On the last night of Team Geezer's observation, the tracker suddenly diverted off course, moving at driving speed toward a hospital parking lot. Young had sustained bone damage to his little toe, along with cellulitis. A genuine, serious infection. Therefore, the transcontinental attempt was over. But the story was still far from it. With the controversy spiraling, Robert's main sponsor, Skins, hired independent experts to investigate. They analyzed the raw data from the 2 GPS watches Robert wore throughout the run. Their conclusion was blunt. The data made no sense unless the watches had spent large portions of the journey inside a moving vehicle. Of course, Young denied all cheating allegations. But that did not stop Skins from immediately dropping Robert as a sponsored athlete. The Trans-America record attempt was not recognized. So, after approximately 36 days and more than 2,000 miles of lies and deceit, things came to a sad, albeit deserved, end. The downfall of a legend, Marathon Man. And the majestic story of how he ran all the way across America will never come true. But in the end, it's funny, isn't it? None of these people were fighting over millions of dollars. They weren't competing for fame. Half the time, they weren't even competing for anything that would matter a month later. And yet, all of them ended with secret sabotage, sophisticated cheating, or FBI-level public investigations. Which makes you wonder, maybe humans don't need high stakes to lose their minds. We just need something to win.
You got thousands of fucking dollars. You don't.
Hey, so glad you made it this far. If you want to see just how insane people can get, check out these videos. I've got plenty more stupid, ridiculous stories coming. So if you enjoyed this one, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.